Session 60. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. We begin with the name of God, who is most gracious and merciful, and we begin with blessings on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the last and final prophet. We continue with Surah Fatiha, the Qur'an summarized. And in that we were on verse 4 of Surah Fatiha, that is Iyyaka na'budu wa Iyyaka nasta'in. In this we are on the first part of this verse, fourth verse, that is Iyyaka na'budu, that is you alone do we worship, obey, subserve. Additionally, there are 6 basic elements, articles of faith, Iman, which according to Qur'an are the basis of all religious understanding and of the cosmic reality. These are given at various places in Qur'an. 2 Surah Baqarah, verse 285, 4 An-Nisa, verse 136, and 9 At-Tawbah, verse 51. I'll read them, these 5. The existence of one and the only God. 2. The existence of other spiritual beings, his angels, etc. 3. The existence of divine revelations, his books. 4. The sending of prophets, his messengers. 5. Final judgment, life after death. 6. Predestination, Qismat, but sufficient freedom given to man to hold him accountable for his performance. To hold him accountable for his performance. Islam provides a code of conduct and worship, which is specific to it alone, and which, together with the profession of Shahada, faith comprises the so-called 5 pillars. So after Shahada, the first pillar is Salah, ritual prayers at fixed times, 5 times a day. Then Zakah, the third pillar, the annual payment of money for the poor. 4th, the Swam, fasting during day throughout the month of Ramadan. And 5, Hajj for those who can manage a pilgrimage to Makkah. Islam is not a religion as the word is normally used. It is a deen, a way of life. It is a deen, a way of life, based on belief and deeds, prayers and work. All beliefs are linked with physical activities, a complete code of conduct. Now the second half of the verse, that is Iyyaka nasta'in, that is you alone we ask for help. The Prophet, peace be upon him, Muhammad, the last and the final, is reported to have stated, ask Allah for everything, even if it be as insignificant as a shoelace. I repeat, he stated, ask Allah for everything, even if it be as insignificant as a shoelace. Bukhari. Whether in extremis, apparently almost at the end of life, extreme circumstances, desperate, or in any problem or difficulty, Abd reverts immediately, offers 2 rakah Salatul Hajat, and prays for Allah's assistance, and feels sure and satisfied he'll definitely be assisted, helped. And whenever he receives a good news, some special blessing of Allah, he reverts to Allah again to offer 2 rakatul salah shukr, rakatul salahul shukr, as a measure of thanks and gratitude. Yet, seeking Allah's assistance in everything doesn't absolve him putting his optimum best to tackle a crisis situation, trying one's level best, endeavoring to the optimum almost to unbearable limits. Even in apparently no-win situations was one of the striking features of the life of the Prophet and his companions, that is his sunnah, which a believer must emulate. I repeat, and in the trying one's level best, endeavoring to the optimum, almost to unbearable limits, even in apparently no-win situations, was one of the striking features of the life of the Prophet and his companions, his sunnah, which a believer must emulate. No man has ever conceivably faced so much grief and agony and fought so hard in spiritual, moral, physical, socio-political fields as the Prophet did. He was never found hesitant, reluctant, or wanting in endeavor, nor in seeking Allah's help profoundly, profusely. A believer does his best and pegs all his hopes on Allah alone. A believer does his best and pegs all his hopes on Allah alone. Ista'anat, that is seeking Allah's help, has certain ingredients, constituents. Ista'anat, that is seeking Allah's help, has certain ingredients, constituents. For example, 1. Total faith in the omnipotence of Allah. Total faith in the omnipotence of Allah. He can do whatever He chooses to do. Allah can do whatever He chooses to do in accordance with His great scheme of running the universes. There is no power but the power of Allah. There is no power but the power of Allah. 2. One can't have the courage to one's convictions, not brave enough to act in accordance with one's beliefs without the assistance of Allah. 3. One's prayers would definitely be accepted by Allah. One's prayers would definitely be accepted by Allah. He doesn't reject an abd's supplications. The time and form may, however, be different. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is reported to have stated that a believer's prayer is invariably accepted, as it is given what he has asked for, or something better in lieu, or some misery, trouble taken off his back in return, or an accumulated reward given hereafter in lieu. Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Mishkat. 4. The believer persists with his efforts and prayers, not giving up any of the two. A believer persists with his efforts and prayers, not giving up any of the two. knocking at the door of Allah constantly, even when things continue to go wrong, apparently, and there appears no ray of light. وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. The second part, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And you alone we ask for help. The Quran and the Sunnah have enunciated very strict measures to shut the doors to endemic and insidious pantheism, shirk. And monotheism has been repeatedly emphasized to a degree that no rational being should err or feel confused. Only Allah is worthy of all worship, highest honor, respect, and being made deific. So if one pays obeisance, bows before anyone other than him, as one should have honored, respected Allah, one would no longer be a monotheist. I repeat, so if one pays obeisance, bows before anyone other than him, other than Allah, as one should have honored, respected Allah, one would no longer be a monotheist, a believer. It's Allah alone who listens, attends to all prayers, supplications, requests for assistance. So if someone conjoins some other than Allah in his prayers and requests for help, assistance, he has created a shareholder, a partner in the unity of Allah, and is therefore a mushrik, a pantheist. Prayers, seeking help, bowing, prostrating, complete trust, confidence that he shall be helped, and all expectations, and likewise all acts of worship and honoring establish a direct relationship between Allah and His abd, His human beings. So, if one includes someone else in it too, one would actually compromise in this one-to-one relationship, impugn his sole right of being Allah, impugn his, that is Allah's sole right of being Allah. Likewise, the awe, fear, the aura, majesty, omnipotence, omniscience, all which create a vision of Allah have to be reserved, devoted to Allah and none else. If this vision about Allah is held for someone other than Him, one has invariably created a shareholder, a partner with Allah. Blundering to shirk, pantheism. These are the reasons Qur'an states right at the outset, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. None else but you alone do we worship, subserve, and you alone we ask for help. This forms the open sesame, means of access to Quran. This forms the open sesame, means of access to Quran. Now the fifth verse of Surah Fatiha, Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim. Give us the right path. Give us the right path. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the paragon, paradigm, perfect example, model of Quran, the Quran incarnate, Quran in human shape. When he recited Quran, he reproduced the very word of Allah. And when he spoke other than Quran, it was the will, desire, intent of Allah expressed in the Prophet's words. And when he spoke, I repeat, other than Quran, It was the will, desire, intent of Allah expressed in the Prophet's words. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is the proxy of Allah as established, declared by Allah in these verses. 4 An-Nisa, verse 80. Man yuti rasula faqad ata Allah wa man tawalla fama arsalnaka alayhim hafiza. Translation: He who obeys the Prophet, peace be upon him, obeys Allah. He who obeys the Prophet obeys Allah. And the one who turns away, then don't force him. We haven't appointed you a warden over them. 4 An-Nisa, verse 64. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا لِيُطَاعَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. And we didn't send any prophet but to be obeyed by the order of Allah. And we didn't send any prophet but to be obeyed by the order of Allah. 4 An-Nisa, verse 69. وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِن نَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. Translation: And he who obeys Allah and obeys his Prophet, so these are with those who have been rewarded, elevated, honored by Allah. For these are with those who have been rewarded, elevated, honored by Allah, that they are among the prophets, the Siddiqs, that is the truthful, martyrs, and the righteous, and their association is blessed. And their association is blessed. And the last verse today, 4 An-Nisa, verse 115. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِرِ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَعَتْ مَصِيرًا. Anyone who opposes the Prophet, peace be upon him, after guidance has been plainly conveyed to him, that is this person, and diversifies, changes his way, deeds, doings from that of the Prophet, and follows a path at variation different from that of the faithful believers, that is the companions, will leave him, allow him to go on that very path where he has turned, headed, and ultimately will put him in the hell, which is an evil refuge. That's all for today. Jazakallah. Please pray for me. Ex-Brigadier Mustansir Billah.